Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today at the Shanker Institute, and particularly to follow Senator Elizabeth Warren. I must say that, as someone who does this sort of work, she is indeed a champion, and I believe that her work has been an inspiration to many of us. I'm going to be talking about some research today that informs some of the agenda that she's speaking about, and I want to put some student stories and some data that we have at the Wisconsin Hope Lab, which I direct, behind some of what she's saying and talk about some of the pathways that we could engage in order to move forward. I do have some slides, and I'm going to begin with one here that actually my colleagues at the University of Michigan put together. I believe that this slide, which looks at changes over time in the fraction of people who complete college according to the family background into which they are born, illustrates the point that, in fact, Senator Warren is correct. The American dream has been betrayed. Opportunities today to attain college are more tightly linked to family income than ever before. What you can see in this chart is that over time, while we have invested in a financial aid system intended to break the link between family income and college attainment, that link has grown ever stronger. And this has happened at a time when it has become very clear that the only route to social mobility, in other words, the only ability to get ahead in this country, runs through higher education. We didn't all agree that that was the only route that we wanted to see, but that is in fact what has happened, as all of the other routes have been destabilized. So at this very moment at which the path through higher education is more important, it is simultaneously less affordable. And as Senator Warren said, that is indeed affecting our children's future. I too understand this very personally. I have a 5-year-old at home, and I want very much for Annie, but also for her friends and her peers in our neighborhood to be able to go to school. But I also want to say that I want my peers, the mothers and fathers of young children today who have not yet had the opportunity to complete their degrees, to be able to do so as well. There are 1 million undergraduates today who are over the age of 25, and they are not lost. They are not kids, but they still can get degrees, and they can still do great things with them. And today, that opportunity is not there for them. Now, people are calling bluff on the idea that if you simply work hard, you can afford college. And this chart from the Department of Education actually shows you quite clearly that even among very high ability people, there are very large gaps in college attainment rates according to family income. In fact, among the highest achieving, there is a 33 percentage point gap in bachelor's degree completion among people from low income backgrounds and those from high income backgrounds. And what that means is that both low and middle income students are really being left behind, no matter how smart they are. The thing is, degree completion matters. And it matters today more than it ever has before. What I'm showing you here in this chart are unemployment rates as of 2014. And what you will see in this chart is that the unemployment rate of people who've only begun college but not finished anything, in other words, they left with no credential, is the same as for a high school graduate. This is a very serious problem. We will not get ahead in improving our economy or improving, frankly, the fabric of our society until we not only get people to start college, but to complete something. And I want to highlight for you that the associate's degree, as you see up there, really pays off. It pays off with better wages. It pays off at a higher rate of employment. It pays off real returns for real families. And we aren't even getting people to complete that very critical associate's degree today. And that is because, despite popular perception that community college is free, it simply is not. For all of the reasons that Senator Warren described about state disinvestment, it might surprise you to learn that for a young person from a family earning just $20,000 a year, It costs them out of pocket over $8,000 a year to attend community college. That is after they have FAFSA'd. That is after all grants and scholarships. If that doesn't give you pause and tell you that something has gone horribly wrong in this country, I'm not sure what will. The system is clearly broken when it requires a person from a low-income family to shell out 40% of their family income for a year to attend a single year of public community college, which was supposed to be free. Now, I have spent the last decade with my colleagues at the Wisconsin Hope Lab tracking thousands of middle-class students, lower and middle and upper class, as they try to navigate today's colleges and universities. We have watched them go through 42 public colleges and 2-year colleges and 4-year colleges and universities. We have studied 3,000 of them up close and personal through administrative data, through surveys, and through interviews. And what I can tell you is this system is broken at every single level. The reason we know it's broken is it in fact hinders people today from completing their degrees. Our financial aid system makes it too expensive to complete degrees. It gets people in the door with a little voucher, which is all the Pell is, a tiny little discount that says, here's $5,000 to discount this $25,000 a year university. Why don't you take out debt for the rest? This is not working. If we want to ensure genuine opportunities, we have to make it possible for people to finish what they start. And the words on the screen are the way that students we have talked to describe financial aid. It is not just the FAFSA. This is what happens after the FAFSA. It is a confusing and complicated and bureaucratic and untrustworthy system that is also under-resourced. It includes rules about GPA performance that are not clearly communicated to students, and which, frankly, if they do understand, creates incentives for them to take easier classes, not harder ones, and proceed at slower rates through college, not faster. This system was built for a very different time and place. It is not equipped for today's world in which we have students from all walks of life enrolling in college in very high rates. We need a new system. The real student debt crisis, I have to say, is a little different than what's been described. Okay? What we have today is college access without an adequate financing system, and that is the cause of student debt. Debt is a consequence, not a cause. And it's going to continue until we address this situation where we have people who are not finishing college and who are leaving with debt and no degree. We are putting 90% of all Pell recipients who manage to finish into debt. This was a financing system which was supposed to require Pell recipients to do nothing except accept grants. 90% of those who manage to finish have debt. 1/3 of those who enter public colleges and universities, let's put the for-profits aside for just a moment. 1/3 of those who enter public colleges and universities leave with no credential and on average $9,000 in debt. Now, $9,000 doesn't sound like a lot when we're talking about $100,000. But when you're from a family that makes $20,000 a year, that $9,000 is a lot of money. And we are watching students struggle to repay tiny amounts, tiny for those of us that have real incomes, but huge in the moment, of $3,000 and $4,000 that they are struggling to pay year after year after year. And when you talk to them about this situation, they sound a lot like the 8th grader we heard about earlier. What they have said to us is this: why in the world would I ever put my child in the future through this? They are not going to send their children to college, and yet there isn't going to be another pathway ahead. So we are undoing the virtuous cycle that we have created, through which education creates opportunity, and we are undoing it through the debt that they are so struggling to repay. That is the student debt crisis. Those are the people who are really in trouble. They don't have mountains of debt. They just have no degree. And frankly, refi doesn't really help them because the amount of debt they have is not that large. So I want to suggest that I agree with the senator, especially when she says, let's put the politics aside and work across the aisle. People all over this country demand that. We really cannot engage in this partisanship anymore. We have to build a much better system. But research suggests that we need to prioritize several things. First, simplicity and transparency. We have to get rid of all this nonsense, all this means testing where we're trying to figure out who deserves what, who should fill out, get the FAFSA, who should get the Pell, et cetera, et cetera. This is actually just a bureaucratic nightmare. Everybody needs help right now. The only people who don't are in the top 1%. We need a clear and trustworthy system that people can believe in and can tell they're going to be able to afford college so they can invest in it. We also need to focus our efforts and do one thing and do it right, which is to get people to complete their first degree. I am proposing, and we have written about, and we have a paper at the Hope Lab website, about essentially making the first degree free. We have too many students today at four-year institutions who complete 2 years of college, and they don't get anything. Mm-hmm. They've done all these credits, and they don't even get a credential. I think it's time that our four-year colleges start giving them the associate's degree that, frankly, they have earned. Okay? That's the first degree. If we can get folks to the first degree for free, we will have done enormous things. And that is the group that today is not getting ahead. They're not getting to the third year of college. They're not on their way to the bachelor's degree. They're not even getting in the door. They're not even finishing 24 credits. The first degree for free will help us to get it right from the start and set them on a path by which they can make additional decisions. So what I think that all of this means is that, frankly, we're not going to be able, I don't believe, to tinker our way through the current system to make it better, to do add-ons that are going to fix it. I think it's time to admit that we have done 50 years of this current system, and it's time for 2.0. I think it's time for a fresh start. I don't think we're going to deal with debt, frankly, until we lower the prices up front. And it is the price. We are not naive. The first degree for free does not mean that no one pays for it. It means that the person who's purchasing education doesn't pay for it. We all collectively pay for it on the other end because by doing so, we will reduce our crime rate, we will make people healthier, we will increase civic participation, and we will build our tax base by investing in this. I think that we have to work together, set the politics aside. I think that all of our government agencies can work collaboratively on this, and they need to make it happen because we have to remove price barriers in order to drive up college completion rates, and we have to drive down debt for those who can least afford to carry it, or we're going to be looking at a very different tomorrow than even the hard one that we face right now. Thank you very much.